Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Well, today we're obviously not in my plant room and we're not in the garden. We're in my sewing room. And you might think that's kind of strange. But I've decided I'm going to do a project that I've been thinking of doing for a long time now, and that's to make my own fabric pots. So here's one that I've done up already. I'm thinking it'll be close to about 3 to 4 gallon pot. And I have enough fabric to make a couple more. So I'm going to show you the fabric. So here we are over on my cutting table. And all this fabric is a felt. It's a heavy felt. And it actually came around some appliances or something we got years ago. I can't even remember. But it was one of those things where, you know, my brain said, that could be handy someday, and so I've held on to it, and today's the day it's going to get handy. So what I've cut here, but it's approximately 20 inches, so it's about 20 inches. This ruler is 18, so another couple, about 20 inches. You fold it in half, and it's about 20 inches in half, so it's about 20 by 40. To get that size of the pot that I already showed you. So you'll lose a little bit of that height once you sew up the bottom and get it to sit out, but you'll get about that much, you know, in your circumference when you're done. So let's take it over to the sewing machine and get our first couple of stitches done, and then I'll show you how I do the rest. So all I'm doing to start is to just get the corners somewhat lined up. We're gonna sew shut one end on one side, and the other side was folded over already. So we'll just go around. And I'm just gonna use a straight stitch to start, and then I'll go back over with a zigzag to reinforce it a little bit. I'm going to give it a little back stitch. Again, just reinforcement. And just because I want the side to look just a little bit nicer, I'm going to change my machine. You can see right there I was doing a straight stitch, so I'm just going to change it to a zigzag, and I'm going to open that seam up. Now you have to be careful that you're not stitching on the other side, so make sure there's no fabric from the other parts of the pot underneath you, and I'm just holding it open with my fingers, and I'm holding on the sides to make sure it's not bunched up underneath. Put it underneath, just back stitch a little bit. And I'm just going to go through. Again, I'm just going to feel underneath, make sure I'm not catching any of that fabric underneath me, because I don't want to sew the two sides together. So you can see how I've pulled those apart, hopefully. Back stitches, cut the thread. Now the trick is to get it pulled back out. So now I've basically built myself a fabric tube that's about 20 inches tall. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our bottom and we're just going to do the same thing, just stitch across. So I'm going to go back to a straight stitch. Give a little back stitch. Okay, so that's stitched together now. You can see the line there. And that's probably good enough, but because we're going to be putting such a load in here, I would just like to give it a little bit more strength. So what I'm going to do now is I have a stitch, I think it's called a serge. It's not actually a serger machine. You could use your serger if you have one, or you could just zigzag across. I'll show you what the stitch looks like because I'm really not sure what it's actually called. But this is what I use for finishing the edges, just to give a little bit of strength. And I'm actually going to flip it so it's doing the straight line on the outer edge and just tacking up to the front, and I think that'll just give it a little bit more strength. So that's what I'm doing with my machine. Like I said, you could just zigzag over it flat like that just to give it more strength. Just another straight row stitching would help, just something I think just to reinforce the bottom a little bit is what we're looking for here. Again, I'm just going to go back. Just helps to reinforce that first start. So there you can kind of make out that extra row of stitching there, and that'll just give it a little bit more strength as we go along, because there's going to be a lot of weight going in this pot. So now when we open this up, you'll see if you have it just like this, you're going to have this kind of wonky corners and edge and stuff like this. And we want it to sit nice and flat, not like that. So I'll show you what we're going to do to fix these corners to make them lay flat. So we're going to flip our bag inside out again. So I have my two corners that I just made there. What I want to do is find kind of the center of that part and open it up kind of the other way. So now they're kind of flopping funny. So I'm going to keep opening it up until I get one corner somewhat flat like that. And I'm going to set it down. I'm going to grab my ruler again, and I'm going to measure up 4 inches from the corner. Take a piece of chalk, give it a little mark, and I'm going to go over the other side, do the same thing. And I'm just going to join those 2 lines. Now, just want to make sure it's laying flat here. Now, how tall you make your container is going to determine how far up you want to come with those lines. If you're making a shorter container, you might not want to come up so far. So I'm taking my other corner now, I'm folding it out the same way, so This seam at the bottom is approximately centered between the two edges. Lay it out there. Measure up my 4 inches. Join those 2 marks. And then back to the sewing machine. All we're going to do is do a nice straight stitch across that line. Go back a little bit, a couple stitches just to reinforce that area. Straight across our line. Again, I'm going to go back just a couple of stitches just to reinforce it and cut the thread. So now I'll do that on the other corner. Exact same thing. Just make sure you don't have anything bunched up or bulked up underneath. Lay everything flat. Line it up. Just going back to reinforce. Forward. Back a couple stitches to help reinforce it. And cut our thread. Okay, so now you can see where I've sewn just a nice straight stitch across there. So let's open our bag up. So pull those corners through. The other one. Just give them a little push. And now you can see how it's kind of squared off at the edge there. And we'll just push our finger and thumb so we can get it squared at that edge as well. And now the bag sits nice. So you can see there, now I have 2 nice bags ready for planting. Now you could probably measure up a little bit if you wanted your bag to be just a little bit more square. Right now they're kind of rectangle. So if you measure up a little bit further, then when you're doing those corners, this part will get wider, but you'll also lose more height up top to bottom. So that's the choice you have to make, is how far you go, because you're going to lose a little bit of height. But this gives kind of a square bag. It's kind of about like a nice shopping bag kind of size. It's basically the same idea as what we're making. So now I have enough fabric. I'm going to make one more, and then I think I have some big rolls of landscape fabric, so I think I'm going to probably cut a few pieces of that off. Try and make a few out of that. It's a heavy duty landscape fabric, and I'm sure it would work just as well. So here I am out in my garden shed. You see I have a huge roll of landscape fabric out here. It's not as nice and thick as the felt, but I think I'm going to double it up and see if I can make some pots out of it as well. So I'll let you know how that works out. Okay, so I've been out to the shed, refueled, gotten some of this fabric. It's just landscape cloth, and I'm gonna see if I can make one of these bags. I've got 3 out of the felt. I'm gonna see if I can make one out of this landscape fabric. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to double it up. Because I think it's just a little bit thinner than I would like. You used to be able to get really good thick felted landscape fabric. I haven't found that in a few years, but if you can find that, I would recommend using it. Okay, so I have the fabric is folded in half. So this is about 22, 21 inches, I forget what I measured there, by about 40 with it folded in half. And I'm going to fold it along the 40 edge. And then I will leave the fold side as my top, and I'm going to sew down the raw edges. You could pin these if you wanted. I just find it just as easy to just hold them together and go with this kind of a stitch. Again, we're just doing a straight line. Let's just go back to give it a little bit of a reinforcement. So I just changed over to that kind of serger type stitch. And I'm just going to go around both these sides with it. When you do these corners, you're basically lining the bottom seam with the top seam and laying it flat before you do your measurement. Okay, so here's the bag made out of the landscape fabric. Remember, I doubled it, so it's a double layer of fabric. This landscape fabric isn't the top quality, but it's not the worst quality, so we'll see how it holds up. It certainly doesn't feel as nice as the felt does. But so I have the landscape fabric bag, and I measured it just a little bit taller. It's probably closer to 5, maybe even 7 gallons. And then I think they're rolled down, but I think they'll be close to about 3 gallons. So I have 3 of those. And we'll see how they hold up, how they work out. So thanks for joining me in my sewing room today. It doesn't take much to do these, so I thought it was worth giving it a try, especially with the felt that I've just been saving, and it came free in packaging. So I'd like to see if it works out. It's a lot cheaper than buying the grow bags, and I like the way plants perform in the grow bags. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of this project, and if you would ever try it, or if you have tried it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.